You lose everything in a shipwreck. Most men drown. Zeno didn't. He came back with nothing but wet clothes and a clearer mind. And from that, he built a philosophy that's still holding the line. File 2. Zeno of Citium, the rebuilder. Zeno wasn't born into war. He wasn't raised by soldiers. He wasn't a philosopher, not at first. He was a merchant. He sold Tyrian purple dye, a color worn by kings and killers, priests and egos. He dealt in wealth, in luxury, in image, until the sea stripped him of everything that made him useful. One storm, one wreck. Gone. No ship, no cargo, no future. That's where most lives collapse. That's where most men sit down and call it fate. Zeno didn't. He walked into Athens with no gold and no name, and he walked into a bookstore, picked up Xenophon's Memorabilia, a record of Socrates, and what he read. It didn't comfort him. It confronted him. He read about a man who stood calmly on trial, knowing death was coming, and refused to flinch, refused to lie, refused to betray what he believed, and that shook him harder than the sea ever could. Zeno asked the bookseller, "Where do I find a man like that?" The bookseller pointed out to the street, to a ragged philosopher named Crates, a cynic barefoot, poor, smiling. Zeno followed him, and he never stopped walking. He trained for 20 years, under Crates, under Stilpo, under Polemo. He walked beside men who owned nothing, and yet stood like they owned the truth. And when he was finally ready to speak, he didn't build a temple, didn't petition a king. He stepped under the painted porch in the marketplace, the Stoa, and started talking to the people. That's where Stoicism was born. Not in marble, not in privilege, but in the dust and sun, where real men wrestled with real life. Before we go further, if this story already means something to you, share it. That wreck you're crawling out of? You're not the first. You won't be the last. And someone else might need the words right now more than you do. Let them hear it. Zeno taught that the universe runs on logos reason, and our job isn't to control it. It's to align with it. That's the core of Stoicism. Live in agreement with nature. Not trees and rivers, but your nature, your reason, your integrity, your role. He said, happiness is a good flow of life, but flow doesn't mean ease. Flow means discipline. A current you choose to stand in, even when it's cold, even when it hurts. He taught the 4 cardinal virtues: courage, justice, wisdom, discipline, not ideas, not feelings, commands. You hold them like weapons. You polish them like armor. He taught that things like pleasure, pain, wealth, poverty, they aren't good or bad, they're indifference. What matters is what you do with them, how you hold yourself when those things show up, or when they vanish. He said, man conquers the world by conquering himself. And that line, that's not metaphor, that's a battle plan. Zeno lived it. He didn't take bribes, didn't chase praise. He ate little, spoke less, taught clean. He refused rewards from kings. He turned down comfort. He didn't just teach self-sufficiency, he became it. One quote they attribute to him: I made a prosperous voyage when I suffered shipwreck. Let that sink in. Not in spite of the wreck. Because of it, the wreck was the gift. The collapse was the doorway. Most men look for shelter after a fall. Zeno built one out of thought, out of discipline, out of what couldn't be taken. Let me bring this down to the dirt. Let me tell you why this matters to me. We were under siege on the edge of Axis 9. The station was folding, metal collapsing like wet paper. I was pinned under concrete in old blood, radio gone, air thin. One eye sealed shut, and I remembered that quote. I made a prosperous voyage. I asked the only question worth asking. What do I still control? Not the wreck, not the loss, not the men I couldn't pull out. Just one thing: how I respond. I focused. I breathed slow. I worked the rebar like it owed me answers, and I got out. The whole time Zeno was in my head, not with comfort, with clarity. That's what makes him a Stoic. Not the ideas, the application. He didn't say life wouldn't break you. He said it would, and that you could still stand in the wreckage without becoming wreckage yourself. If this transmission means something to you, send it to someone you know is sinking, someone who needs a reason to reach shore. Maybe you're that person. Maybe this is your wreck. Then good. You're right on time. Zeno's story is simple. He was nobody. Then the sea took what little he had, and in the aftermath he built something immortal. Not a monument, a mindset, not a throne, a code, Stoicism. And Zeno? He walked it first. This is Gage. Trench Meditations. File 2. Closed for now. If this transmission means something to you, send it to someone you know is sinking. Someone who needs a reason to reach shore. Maybe you're that person. Maybe this is your wreck. And good. You're right on time. Still. Abdi Quadr. Zeno's story is simple. He was nobody. Then the sea took what little he had, and in the aftermath he built something immortal. Not a monument, a mindset, not a throne, a code. That's Stoicism. And Zeno? He walked it first. This is Gage. Trench Meditations. File 2. Closed for now.